Sois exalté par le monde. Au baron, par la dans lieu. Sois exalté par le monde. Over everything that's happening to us this morning. Whatever everyone is, whether online or whatever you are, we exalt Jesus as we exalt Him, whatever is happening to us, whatever stronghold, whatever issue that we may have, anything that we ask for Him, we exalt Him. He is the name above all names, and every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that He is Lord. To the glory of God the Father. So every name must bow as we call upon the name of Jesus. Every name must bow, every name must bow. You bow in Jesus' name. Thank you, Jesus. I exalt thee, I exalt thee, I exalt thee, oh Lord. You deserve the glory and the honor. Lord, we lift our hands in worship as we lift your holy name. You deserve the glory and the honor. Lord, we lift our hands as we lift your holy name. For you are great, you're the miracle so great. There's no one else like you. There's no one else like you. For you are great, you're the miracle so great. There's no one else like you. There's no one else like you. You deserve the glory and the honor. Lord, we lift our hands in worship as we lift your holy name. For you are great, your miracle so great. There is no one like you. There's no one else like you. Oh, you are great. You do miracles so great. There's no one else like you. There's no one else like you. Oh, you are great. You do miracles so great. There's no one else like you. There's no one else like you. Oh, you are great. You do miracles so great. There's no one else like you. There's no one else like you. Thank you, Lord. We praise you, Jesus. Praise you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Let the glory belong to you, Lord. We offer our praise, we offer our worship, and we offer, Lord, the servant to you, Lord. We place our pastor into your hands. Lord, we ask you for your anointing, Lord. Please speak through him. Let him, Lord, bring hope and peace to people and healing, Lord, to people. So bless him. The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty. Let all the earth rejoice, let all rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, all will see how great is our God. Age to age he stands, and time is in his hand, beginning and the end, the God that freed him once, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, all will see how great is our God. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, all will see how great is our God. You're the name above all names, you are worthy of all praise, my heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, all will see how great is our God. How great is our God, sing with me, how great is our God, all will see how great is our God. My heart will sing, how great is our God. In the name above all names, you are worthy of How great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. All will see how great is our God. How great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. All will see how great is our God.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Lord Jesus.
Well, good morning and welcome to Life Church. Okay, we have a special speaker. Excuse me, I gotta get my notes.
I'm not sure how long.
Okay. All righty. Well, first of all, I'd like to again say welcome, and please keep your prayers for Pastor Damien. He's going in for more healing. You know it's going to be fine, but let's just pray that he be strong and just have your covering over him during these days. We'll give you more information when we have it. So just remind you, if you'd like to make an offering to Kona Life Church, to please do so on paypal.com, and the account is Pastor Damien, or no, excuse me, Kona Life Church at yahoo.com. So the PayPal account is Kona Life Church at yahoo.com. And our webpage is konalifechurch.org. So again, if you come here in person, you can get CDs from Pastor Damien for $3, teachings and Sunday classes, a number of topics. So we have a blessed 3-day here in Kona, which is unusual for downtown Kona, but we're here enjoying the rain and all the plants, so we're happy. So without further ado, we have Pastor, his name is Steve Clowser, and he's a brother and friend of Pastor Damien's, and tells me he knows the word inside and out. So he's got some insights to share with us this morning. All right.
Thank you, Darlene. Darlene, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the Lord knows his word inside and out. I'll tell you that. Well, first a little background. Well, good morning, everyone. And I didn't know how this was going to turn out. I didn't know how this was going to... It's not? Yep. It is on?
There you go.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't sure how this would turn out just because of our weather, but it's nice. And you know, Jesus said something really beautiful, and it really warms my heart. I know it will warm your heart. He said, wherever 2 or 3 gather, there I am in the midst of them. Why would he say something like that? He didn't say anything about a big crowd, did he? So here we are. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. He's right here in our midst. That's right. That's right. We're all ministers of reconciliation because of him. So just a little background I just want to share. The first time I lived here was 1979 to 81. My mom and dad bought a lot up in Calicahe, and I came over from Santa Cruz and helped build their house. And my brother Dave and his wife Dan were here too, and they stayed 11 years, and both their boys were born here, Josh and Scott. And at that time I got to know Damien, and there was like a whole crew that came over from Santa Cruz. They were carpenters, and Mike Hamilton, who goes to Calvary Community, called Mike. There was John Roloff and Randy Reed. Those were his carpenters. And like all of us knew each other in Santa Cruz and fellowshiped with each other. And so here we were, and you know, John and I and Randy were pretty physical, and we met Damien, and Damien was a kickboxer and quite a specimen human being back in those days, the way he looked, very agile, fit. You wouldn't even recognize how he looked compared to now. And also a good surfer, and I'm a surfer. And so we all connected, and that's how I met him. And we used to train together. And brother, what's your name right here?
Pastor Mac.
Pastor what?
Mac.
Mac. Okay. Well, good. You know, you're a big guy. John was like a big guy. And so I'm the smallest guy, and training boxing and kickboxing with these guys was kind of rattling, you know, get my head jarred at times. But anyway, you know, that's how I knew Damien. And, you know, then I went back to Santa Cruz because I was married and divorced, and I had 2 young daughters, and I had to go back and be dad. You know, we had joint custody. But I never wanted to leave here. I always wanted to be here. I felt like I fit in this culture. My mom was born in Mexico, so I'm not fully white, thank God. And I love people of color. I was born in Oakland, California, in a black neighborhood, and it was severe. It was the ghetto. It was the inner city situation. There was no gray area. It was black and white, very clear how things were. The Lord had his hand on me from a very young age. He saved my life twice before I was 5 years old. Once from a fire, and it was like a guardian angel. My room, I was in this upper room on the first house my mom and dad bought, and there was a funny smell as I drifted off to sleep. And all of a sudden later, I heard a voice and a nudge on my arm that said, "Get up." And the flames were floor to ceiling, 2 feet behind my headphone. I mean, another minute, I would have been gone. And I know that that was the Lord that sent his angel to you know, keep me. And so anyway, and there was another time, I might as well say this, because of the way my neighborhood was. There were 2 boys walking across the street one day, and I went around the corner, and I'm 4 and a half. And the little one, my age, was saying to the big one, "Don't hurt him, don't hurt him, don't hurt him." And I'd never felt fear like that, and it was a satanic type of a fear. The sidewalk was about 20 feet wide because it was a black Holy Roller Gospel church, and they had curved steps. And I remember this guy, he just had like a dead look in his eyes, like a shark or something, no life, you know? And he got me against the wall. I couldn't escape. And I heard air moving and a wind rustling. And a voice spoke to me and said, "I'm not going to let someone who I created for good be destroyed by something bad." And then I wasn't aware of anything. The next thing I knew, I had my hands around his neck, and I was backing his head off the curb, and it sounded like a watermelon, and blood was coming out the back. And when I realized that, it made me feel nauseous, and I let go. And the voice spoke to me again. He said, "Now don't take credit for this, because you didn't do it. I did it." He said, "You live in a dangerous neighborhood, and I protected you." He says, I've never forgotten this, 4 and a half, and it's memorized in my heart. And he said, "Don't go looking for anything. Always try and be obscure. Lay low. Don't think of yourself as something when you're not. Run. But if you can't run, I will be there for you." And those were the words he spoke to me. And then he said, "Those who live by the sword will die by it." And in my 30s, you know, I went through a period of backsliding, and I was in Santa Cruz, and I was addicted to cocaine and really went down. Lost everything. Hurt my daughters, brought shame to my family, lost everything. My clients would come to my door, knocking on the door. "Steve, why are you doing this? You're throwing it all away." Because God gave me a real gift as a hairstylist, makeover. Sarah knows. And I'll talk about Sarah in a moment. But it's like, you know, I couldn't give an answer. I couldn't even understand the addiction. It just overwhelmed me. It took me down. And there's always been shame in my heart for that, especially how I hurt my daughters. They just didn't deserve that. And my brothers and my sister were like mom and dad to them more than I was. The first 6 years of their lives, I was dad all the way there. But then when I got into that and those women, because I'm not gay, they came after me. And it was like, you know, Santa Cruz is pretty hedonistic, and so all the kinky types and everything and the drugs were right there at my fingertips. And I just dove in head first, like a fool, you know, and I was ignorant. And you know, not that I excuse the sin, but there's a difference between our ignorance and sin and premeditated sin. David said, King David, and I love this man, he said, "Forgive me for my willful sins, and forgive me for my hidden faults also." So, the Lord knows more about us than we know about ourselves. And mercy triumphs over judgment. And that's part of my message today. So that's just a little background as to, you know, who I am and what the Lord did. I got saved in the Jesus movement in 1970 in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I was not looking for God. I was 19 years old, and the Jesus movement had started, and it was anointed. I mean, the Lord went around the typical traditional churches like they weren't even there. You have to understand, the cities of San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, Marin, it was like a false vortex of light came down from above. And I remember, at 15 years old in 1965, as a sophomore in high school, people would drink and fight. The next year it was smoking pot and hey brother, and all of a sudden you had Hare Krishnas running around chanting Hare Hare Krishna on the street. And you're going, where did this whole stuff come from? So Eastern theosophies, the music scene in San Francisco, which I was in up to, the political unrest, which I was into also. I was kind of a hippie and a revolutionary. I mean, I'd go to Black Panther rallies in Golden Gate Park with Eldridge Cleaver. There'd be 250,000 people. And, war moratorium rallies from the Embarcadero to San Francisco Golden Gate Park. And I was in the People Park riots that day. People Park, the hippies had built teepees in this park right near UC Berkeley, and the city authorities did not like it. So one day, it was a foggy day, and I was over there by myself, and there were 2 helicopters flying overhead, dropping tear gas, and it was a foggy day, and there were 1,500 National Guard on the ground with M16s with bayonets fixed on them, on the rifles, and they were running around between University, Telegraph Ave, and Shattuck, gathering groups of people into areas where they could corral them, and then they had this Alameda County sheriffs with school buses arresting them and taking them out to Santa Rita and processing them. I escaped. And, I looked at all that, and I looked at these people that I looked up to as leaders, and I said, they don't know what they're doing. They're like chickens with their heads running around cut off. And at that moment, I decided I was going to be a full-blown hedonist, which I did. And my brothers and I, our house was separated from the main house, so we were wild. We were out there doing drugs and having our girlfriends and our teens, and there wasn't anything we wouldn't do. And it was the nature of what was going on. So what does the Lord do about things like that? The scripture says that wherever sin abounds, grace much more. And the Lord, he decided, he said, you know what? I'm going to reveal my son to those who were never looking for him. And that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what he did. One of my friends and a brother that has passed and is in heaven now was Lonnie Frisbee, an evangelist. And the Lord used that man like nobody's business. He's the one that ignited Calvary Chapel in Costa Mesa with Chuck Smith and the band The Love Song. And Andre Crouch was another man. And I saw the Lord move with power like you wouldn't believe. I mean, my sister invited me to it. She was in a philosophy class, and there was a guy, had our lockers next to each other in PE class, and I didn't like him at all. He was tall, Germanic, arrogant, 6'3", just a real arrogant guy. And he was a geek, a nerd. And anyway, it was like he had become a Christian, and he was wild. He moved into the Haight-Ashbury, dropped out of high school, took a lot of acid, got under the teaching of a black witch named Stephen Gaskin, a warlock, and also worked with the Grateful Dead. And he got the heck scared out of him because he'd be at their house up in Stinson Beach with these parties and on acid, and he'd see demons flying around and stuff. And somehow the Lord revealed himself to him, and he accepted Jesus. So he tells my sister, he says, Jesus is my best friend. So he invites her to a home group and home church. And she goes, and one day she comes home, she goes, I accepted Jesus. And we were raised Catholic. I was even an altar boy. But it was so pagan, I just didn't buy into it. The Lord didn't let me buy into it. I walked away from the Catholic Church. I was even an altar boy, but it was creepy. Those Stations of the Cross and incense and all this stuff, and praying to saints and, and all these idols and everything. And I said no, And one day my sister stood in front of me and she said, and I was well educated, so I knew history, world history. She said, Jesus is coming back again, And I'd never heard that in Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 8 years, and they never talked about that once. They have their own Bible, They have their own dogma. And when she said that, it put a chill down my spine. And I thought, all right, he's not going to come back to die on the cross again. That would be foolishness. He's coming back to change things. And it scared the heck out of me because I knew how I was. I was pretty wicked, and I knew that I wasn't pleasing to God, you know. I had multiple girlfriends, and I was doing the drugs and all that stuff. And it was like, you know, she invited me to a meeting, and I'd been around a lot of human energy, big concerts, you know, huge concerts, you know, really anointed stuff that wasn't anointed by God, but anointed by satanic energy. And here I was on a hot summer night in Walnut Creek at Upper Streams, and there were people in this house in every room, and they were flowing out on the front lawn, and I could smell an aroma in the air. And I had never smelled anything like that. And I said, what the heck is this? And I saw people changing. I saw inner love in them. And my sister, she was 18, and I'm 19. And, you know, there were 3 of us boys and her. And we were competitive. We fought for the last cookie in the bag, you know, TV programs, whatever, you name it. And she knew how to hold her own. And all of a sudden, she was changing. She would say, Steve, go ahead, you can have this. And I saw this beautiful, submissive nature, full of love. And I said, what the heck is going on here? That's not Anne. That's not Anne. She wasn't like that. So I was seeing Jesus move in real time by how he was changing people on the inside. And that was the witness and the testimony to me that allowed me to believe. In 1 year, I went to like another meeting, and this one brother just spoke these words to me, brother, when are you going to accept Jesus? It was like a javelin that went through my heart. And I never forgot that. The Lord can take the simplest things and he can just speak a rhema to us and it sticks. And then, you know, a third time she invited me because she started telling me Old Testament scriptures, you know, about, you know, Israel was going to be attacked by Iran and Russia and so forth, which is on the brink now. At one point, and I was looking at all that, and I knew the history of the world and what was going on in the Middle East, and I could see that there was a possibility of that, you know. So I go to this meeting, and, you know, I promised her I'd go, but then I kind of chickened out, and I was kind of depressed, and she stood in front of me and says, I'm going to pray. And I said, no, don't do that. I was afraid to hear those words. So I said, I'll go. So when I was there, that brother that I didn't like, he said, I was going to talk about the love of God, but for some reason, I feel like the Lord wants me to talk about, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the second coming of man. And right there, I knew it was for me. And he started to speak. And I tell you, 2 minutes later, I couldn't hear a word he said. It was like the Lord took me in a little room. And there was like a chair. And there was a movie projector. And there was a screen. And he took his hand and he grabbed the roll and he put it on the film. And he turned it on. And it was about me. It was my life. And there was a big red R on my forehead, which stood for